Super, super child, super child, super average child.
For to top it! Oh! Doncaster Rovers have done it!
Hello there everybody, I am the CHALL, your Doncaster Rovers fan. Now, today, we're going to do something different. Now, obviously, Rovers season is over, so while we've got a bit of a break before pre-season, I thought I'd get back in touch with my love of basketball and the NBA while our post-season is happening. So I thought I'd get into a game. Obviously the playoffs are happening at the moment, the NBA playoffs. Of course, it is the semi-finals. And just the other night, obviously it was sort of gone, I'd say 1:30 when this sort of ended. In the UK, 1 o'clock, 1:30 in the morning. Obviously in the US it started about 7 PM, it kicked off here about midnight, so a few hours difference. But the Boston Celtics and the Milwaukee Bucks clashing in playoff game number 5, sorry. And yeah, I thought, you know what, I thought I'd get back in touch with my basketball roots, you know, while the soccer season, if Americans call it soccer, but we call it football in the UK, while our football season is sort of closed off. But if you've got any friends or family that are basketball fans, get them to tune into the channel. We are going to be reacting to a load more sports over the summer. Obviously the Rovers updates will continue and things like that, but we are going to look at some more sports as well over the summer. So it's gonna be a right laugh. It's gonna be a really good laugh. But yeah, I thought I'd give the Celtics and Bucks game a bit of a review today, because I thought, you know what, why not? So I did watch the game overnight, and by the way, very exciting game off the bat. I'm going to go through it quarter by quarter, give you guys starting lineups, where you can see the starting lineups either side of me, home and away. So home is on the left and away is on the right. So you'll know. So let me go through the starting lineups then. Boston, first of all, started with Marcus Smart at point guard, Jaylen Brown at shooting guard, Grant Williams at power forward, Jason Tatum at small forward, and Al Horford in the centre, while the Milwaukee Bucks went with Jrue Holiday and Wesley Matthews as the point guard and shooting guard respectively. Power forward Giannis Antetokounmpo, aka the Greek Freak, and Grayson Allen at small forward, and in the centre Brook Lopez. So I've written down some notes for each individual quarter. We're going to go through it quarter by quarter, just to give you guys a bit of an understanding of my thoughts on the game going into each quarter. So let's start off with that first quarter, which ended 26-28 in favour of the Bucks. Now the first sort of couple of minutes, first 2, 3, 4 minutes, it felt like Milwaukee had a bit of a bright start. I think that they came off the blocks quite quick. It was like 9-2 at one point, I think. So, you know, Milwaukee came off the blocks pretty well. And, you know, Celtics tried to claw their way back into it. And there was a great baseline drive and dunk by Jaylen Brown. That was a really good manoeuvre. If you've watched the game, you'll know what I'm talking about in the first quarter. Very, very good manoeuvre by Jaylen Brown. Now, in terms of ball movement, I feel like the Celtics did do better, especially as the quarter went on. I think the ball movement, the power play, the build-up of the play as well, I think that all of those Celtics sort of edged it over the Bucks for me in terms of the fluidity and the transition of the ball movement. I think the build-up of play was put better with the Celtics. Going into this game, I sort of looked at the Celtics and the Bucks and I thought, right, well, the Celtics in the past have been very much a bruising side. They've been very much a bruiser of a team. They're going to make life uncomfortable for the Bucks. And their passage of play on the offensive was more fluent than the Bucks, and it did feel like the Bucks were being kept under wraps, shall we say. And, you know, the Celtics did their job very well as the quarter went on. Now, in terms of individual errors, I think the Bucks made a lot more individual errors, especially over the game as well. I think that not just the first quarter, but over the game. I think the Bucks made a lot of individual errors and giving the ball up, and they need to stop doing that because the Celtics had a lot of fluent manoeuvres that they could easily turn into 2-pointers and 3-pointers. So I feel like the Bucks kind of made those individual errors and really shot themselves in the foot multiple times, not just in the first quarter, but throughout the match. I think overall, I think at that point in the first quarter, I think that Giannis was uncomfortable in that game. I think that Giannis was proving to be a tough ask in the game by Horford. He made Giannis very difficult. He made his day very difficult. Horford's defensive approach was like a snowplow with Giannis, especially in that first quarter. Really shoulder him off, not conceding the foul or trying not to concede the fouls, and just really, squaring up to Giannis and really putting him under the pressure on the offensive. The defensive work from Al Horford, especially in the first quarter, but throughout the match at times, was amazing. In terms of the room on the ball, I think the Celtics had more room to breathe and more room to move, definitely over the Bucks. I think the Bucks sort of kept their offensive approach very static at times, and it felt very passive. And anytime they came forward, the Celtics used their uncomfortable, bruising nature to really bulldoze them off the ball and really, power play the Bucks. And I think the Celtics did a great job of that. The fact that the Bucks still led by only a couple of points at the end of that first quarter, like I said, 28-26 in favour of the Bucks at the end of the first quarter, it was still a slender lead for the Bucks. And I was kind of glad that they held that slender lead, because it kind of did feel like against the run of play towards the end. But one thing I did know about the Bucks was that the last few minutes of each of the quarters, or each half, should we say, out of 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, the Bucks would sort of fade out towards the end of the half, towards the end of the quarters, and for me, I think Boston needs to take advantage of that. Did they? I think they clawed it back towards the end of the first quarter and really clawed it in towards the end of the quarter, sort of from the halfway point onwards. So I think that the Celtics started to do that, and the Bucks sort of slenderly kept that lead going into the second quarter. So the second quarter ended 54-47 in favour of Boston. Massive turnaround in that second quarter. Now, one particular moment, and I wrote it down here, was a wonderful turnover that ended with a great two-pointer from Jason Tatum. The build-up play was phenomenal, and not just on this occasion, but on multiple occasions, especially in the second quarter, the Bucks were split open like a knife through hot butter. The build-up play was wonderful from the Celtics. The passage of play, the quick breaks, splitting the defence open. It was brilliant play from the Celtics, but the Bucks just had nowhere to turn, and they had no idea where they were going at times. So the Celtics really knew what they were doing in that second quarter, and they cut them apart multiple times, and the Bucks had nowhere to turn to. One thing I did notice, and I think a couple of other journalists noticed this on social media as well, don't get Antetokounmpo playing drop coverage. Now, on Tatum and Horford, it doesn't work. It wasn't working. And that's what I noticed. That's what a lot of people didn't notice. Don't get Antetokounmpo playing drop coverage on Tatum and Horford, because it just doesn't work. When you've got Horford with a defensive man-mounting stature like that, when you've got Tatum, who is, used to getting on the quick break, using his athleticism, using his flexibility with his wrist action, with his hand action, to get the ball off the paint and into the hoop, it just doesn't work with Giannis playing drop coverage. It really doesn't work, in my opinion. So I think that was clear to see in that second quarter, and, as time went on, they changed that. Derek White managing 6 points and 2 assists in the space of 8 minutes was very good. And that was the one thing with me. Celtics bench were very good. The Bucks bench needed work. And I think that was the key. That was the sort of key strategy that led the Celtics to succeed after that second quarter had ended. The bench. The bench was just as good as the starting lineup for the Celtics. For the Bucks, just needed that bit of work. It wasn't up to that level yet. So for me, the Celtics definitely had the backup players to keep the momentum going when Horford sit down, Tatum, Brown, the five starters, when they had to take a rest, the bench players could come on and make an impact, like Derek White. Like I said, in the space of 8 minutes, 6 points and 2 assists? That's amazing. that's amazing for Derek White, and you know, for a bench player as well. So he definitely started to get that momentum going. Again, very quick build-up for a slam dunk. The Bucks cut apart again. Well done by the Celtics again. I picked up on that particular moment where there was a very quick build-up, and again, the Bucks just had loads of space in the gaps. The Celtics knew exactly where the gaps were. They found them and slammed it in like a wham-bam, thank you, ma'am. The Celtics again just cut the Bucks apart, and again the Bucks had nowhere to turn. So again, the Boston just proving in that second quarter how much they came out firing in that second quarter, and the Bucks just had no answer for them at times. The Celtics defense made the Bucks felt very uncomfortable, as I predicted. And as the quarter went on, Giannis definitely improved in his aggression in attack. That was the one thing I picked up on towards the end of the second quarter. Giannis definitely improved in his offensive aggression, and that you could see him starting to want it more, especially with one of the slams that he did into the dunk. Yeah, one of the slams that he did, he had a lot of aggression behind it. It was like thwack. There was a lot of aggression behind it. You could see he was starting to build that up now, and it would be momentum going into that third quarter. And that was one thing that I wanted the Celtics to sort of pick up and take notice on, which I'm sure they probably might have done. So after the halftime, sort of presentation, etc., we go into that third quarter, 77 to 86 in favour of Milwaukee. The Bucks starting to cause more problems for that Celtics offense. You could see what the Bucks were starting to do, and I think Giannis' offensive aggression rubbed off on some of them Bucks players in the third quarter. The aggression started to build and build and build, and the Celtics offense got more and more cautious and less more aggressive. And really, the Bucks started to try and get Celtics in their shell a lot more in that third quarter as it went on as well. Like I say, Giannis' aggression rubbing off on some of their players. The Bucks causing more problems rather than causing their own problems. And it felt like more the Bucks taking control in that third quarter. At times, Grant Williams, at the start of the third quarter especially, looked quite rattled at times, especially when the Bucks were attacking. Like I say, he felt quite rattled, quite cautious in his own shell at times. Came out afterwards and was great overall, but there was times where he was quite rattled by the Bucks' offense. But then the Celtics, there was an interesting manoeuvre. Now, it was an amazing team passing movement, ending with a three-pointer from Marcus Smart. But then Boston in the last few minutes blew the Bucks away with quick breaks and three-pointers. And sort of halfway through that third quarter, going on to the end of the third quarter, Boston really clawed it back. And one of my players to watch out for in that third quarter was Brown. It was Jaylen Brown. And the reason why is because he absolutely blew everyone away. Absolutely blew everyone away with the points he was gaining, with the maneuvers he was helping create. Like I said, there was an amazing team maneuver that ended up with a three-pointer from Marcus Smart. Marcus Smart's three-pointers, by the way, in that game was amazing. Got to point that out. Like I said, it was sort of that thing we were seeing in the first quarter and definitely in the second quarter. Was the amazing team movements from the Boston Celtics. It was the team movements that we saw that made the Celtics a cause for worry for the Bucks and a cause of optimism for the Celtic fans. Like I said, Jaylen Brown was one of my picks for the third quarter. He owned that quarter, in my opinion. I think, like I say, his two-pointers, his manoeuvres, getting involved in team movements, his movement off the ball as well. I noticed his movement off the ball, getting into the right areas, seeing the gaps, trying to feel the gaps, using his vision to see out the little pockets of space and run inside and try and get away from his man that was marking him. I think Jaylen Brown definitely owned that quarter for me. And then going into that fourth quarter with a very, very, very tense ending. Boston sticking with the same fourth quarter lineup as the previous playoff game in Milwaukee, but Portis Jr. with the big change for the Bucks. Would it help them? Would it hinder them? I think it helped the Bucks. I think it did, because I think Portis Jr. provided something a bit different to, I think it was Hill that was in last time in the fourth quarter. I think his name was Hill. So Portis Jr. for me was a big change instead of Hill. And I think Portis Jr. definitely provided something different for the Bucks in that fourth quarter, and definitely made some kind of impact. The Bucks' offense maneuvers have improved towards the end of the quarter. I definitely saw that. I think that the Bucks started to grow into that quarter. Boston started strong, started to get those, 9-point leads. There was an 11-point lead. In fact, they had like a 13 or 14-point lead at one point, which was the biggest lead of the night overall. So, Boston really starting to take control. But then the Bucks started to really take it back and really shock the Boston crowd. And the Bucks' offensive maneuvers definitely improved in that fourth quarter, especially halfway through the fourth quarter. Holiday's defensive play. Now, that's something I meant to pick on all game. Jrue Holiday's defensive play was amazing. It was all-star quality, in my opinion. And the reason why it was all-star quality is his defensive approach was so physical, so man-mountain-like, so offensive. It was an offensive defensive approach. And people might not get what that means, but if people in basketball and people in sport in general know what I mean. An offensive defensive approach where you are very much attacking in your defense. You are really getting at them when you're defending and you're really letting them have it. And Jrue Holiday wouldn't give Marcus Smart a second to breathe at times. He really, really didn't. And there was one particular move with 6 seconds to go where Marcus Smart was given no room to move, barely any room to move. Holiday was all over him, tipping that ball away. It was amazing to watch. Amazing to watch. And like I said, Boston, for me, sort of really felt more cautious halfway through that fourth quarter, and Holiday's defensive performance was part of that. And then this is an interesting stat going into Game 6, which will be tomorrow, I believe. Because tonight's 76ers versus Heat, and another game as well. So, sort of, if you don't know it, if you're watching basketball for the first time, if you don't know, basically it alternates. So one night you've got Eastern Conference semi-finals, and then you've got Western Conference semi-finals, and then, either one. So, obviously it's 76ers and Heat, and there's another game tonight as well. Then it'll be the next night, which is Celtics and Bucks. Going into that game now, of course, the final score, if you didn't know already, was Boston 107, Milwaukee 110. Milwaukee are leading the series 3-2 now. It was 2-2 before, now it's 3-2. If the Bucks win tomorrow night, that's done. Boston are out, Milwaukee are through to the conference final. Now, this is an interesting stat, and I've sort of wrote this down here for a reason. The Game 5 winner goes on to win the series 82% of the time. It's a record of 183 to 39. So 82% of the time, the winner of Game 5 goes on to win the series. And of course, Milwaukee Bucks are past NBA champions. As very, very recently. So I think the Bucks could be in a really strong position now to go ahead and win Game 6 in front of their own fans and really take the positives of what went on in this game. Let's look at what both teams need to be doing in Game 6 tomorrow night. For me, for the Bucks side of things, use what you were doing when you were clawing it back in those quarters. Give Portis Jr. that game time. Giannis, he had a cut above his eye. It's nothing serious, I bet. So, he'll be all right for tomorrow night. It's just a cut on the eye. If it's repairable with a stitch or two, then, do that. But for me, with Giannis, especially Giannis, what he and what the Bucks need to do is cut down those brilliant ball movements from the Celtics. Because the Celtics, for me, their big positives from the game just last night were ball movement, passing play, team build-up. That was their best moments when they were building the team movements round. One pass, two pass, three pass, back pass, 3-pointer or 2-point, or go inside for a 2-pointer. The team movements were the best thing about the Celtics. If you can really get at them with your own brute force of defense, with offensive defense, attacking defence. That's what the Bucks need to be doing. Go at them with your own attacking defence. Try and cut the gaps down. Try and trap back as much as possible every time a dunk goes in, or a 2-point or a 3-point or whatever. Trap back as quick as possible. Regain your shape as quick as possible, because the Boston Celtics will want to come at you with loads of attacking strength, and they'll want to go at you with a load of attacking manoeuvement and the team build-up play. Cut that out as much as possible, and then trap back if you score. So for me, the Bucks need to be using that offensive defense as much as they can. Now, Boston Celtics, the best thing they could do was the team movements. Keep doing that. Keep making the Bucks work. Keep tiring them out, and keep making them work for it. And keep trying to force them in. Keep trying to entice them in to open up them gaps for people to run into and slam it in, or get the 2-pointer, or play it on the outside and get a 3-pointer if you've got enough space to go for it. So, you know, Marcus Smart's a very good 3-point shooter. He'd be one of the ones I'd be aiming it for in terms of getting 3-pointers for the Celtics. So he'd be one of my 3-point target focuses if you're going for a 3-pointer in the game on Friday night. That would be my focus anyway. So overall, like I said, I think the Bucks definitely clawed it back on numerous occasions, definitely snatched it in the end. Celtics can go away somewhat with their head held high. You know, they made some great movements, and you know, they'll go into Game 6 now with a bit of confidence. You know, keep their heads up. They're not eliminated yet. If they win on Friday night, then you know, we go into a Game 7 to take it into who goes into the conference final. So it's going to be interesting. But that's going to be it for this review, guys. Like I say, I really hope all you Rovers fans mind if I do these basketball reviews over the summer while we've got postseason going on with our club. Like I said, I'm really open to going into different sports and things like that, and looking at different sports, reacting to different sports videos. So if you do want to see them, please comment down below. Obviously, the Rovers videos will be continuing as normal. But yeah, like I said, over this summer I want to go back into my sports roots and look at different sports, including the NBA more than anything. And, you know, there'll be more NBA videos coming up, so stay tuned for that. Obviously, like I said, 76ers versus Heat tonight. I do have work tomorrow, 12 till 9, so I'm sort of planning to do like an early kip for a few hours, and then sort of staying up for the game for 2-3 hours, and then going to sleep again, ready for work tomorrow. So that might be probably the plan, but I do plan to review the 76ers Heat game, fingers crossed. Kicks off, or tips off at midnight UK time, 7 PM EST, I believe. So if you do want to watch that game, then go over to NBA's official website, you know, pay for the pass, for the season pass, and you will get it. But for now, guys, I am the CHALL. Thank you very much.